As I mentioned, we have an ambassador program. So one thing that we looked at is we have students who come for an information session, and we've seen sometimes they'll come twice. They're getting the same information. So what we did is with this ambassador group, since we had such a large number, is we created a shadow day program where students will register online on our website so we could track and see if this is actually their second visit. And what they'll do is they'll come to Marist and they're going to shadow a student for the day. So it's about, they're going to spend, I would say, 4 hours on campus. They're going to go to class with the student. So what we'll try to do is match them up with their major. We're also trying to monitor the faculty as well, because we want the most dynamic faculty there when, if they're taking the trip. And then what they'll do is they'll also, they'll have lunch with the student. We try to keep a student. Sometimes the parents want to be part of it, but the parents cannot come in class. That's one thing. So last year, we had about 180 shadow days. Out of that group, 120 of those students deposited. So it's something that has been very successful. And once again, it's helping us personalize that experience with the high number of volume of visitors that we have. The overnight program. How many people here host overnight programs? Okay, all right. I was not a fan of the overnight program. I was very nervous. I think it's a big liability, but it's something that actually came from the students, the ambassadors. This is something that they really wanted to do. They really pushed for it. So what we did is we kind of came up with a compromise. Once again, going back to our strategic plan, the students that we're looking for. During our open house for accepted students in the spring, we host an overnight program on Sunday. Okay. Last year, we had about 49 students who attended this overnight program. And pretty much once the open house ends at 4 o'clock, the students and the families are going to be invited to a mocktail. That's what they get to say their goodbyes. And then from that point on, our ambassadors will take the students to our boathouse. They're going to have a dinner. And we're going to keep them engaged that night. We usually have trivia. So they're pretty much active until 10:30, 11. We want to kind of burn them out. We like the fact that it's a Sunday too, so there's not partying, which is going on. And then on the next day, what they'll do is they'll attend a morning class. This has been a very successful program. It's our second year doing it. Out of that group last year, we had 42 students that deposited. And these are from all tertiary markets. So we have students from Hawaii, from Chicago, from California, Puerto Rico. And once again, we had another thing that we put in the criteria is we're looking for our top students. So our presidential scholarships, those students were also part of that group which enrolled. So it's a little bit of liability, but it's been very successful. And once again, the students have really been a big piece of that program in managing it. Yes?
The question was issues matching the student with the host.
No, yeah, we do. We try to match the first thing was we realized that we had a number of girl ambassadors and a lack of male ambassadors. So that was the challenge the first year. So we had to double up some students to accept the students with a host. When we went for our criteria to get the next group of ambassadors, we were able to manage that number out. And what we'll try to do is we'll try to set someone up with a freshman, because they're living in their freshman residence halls, as opposed to with a junior or senior where they're living in townhouses, and you have a lot more people involved in the townhouse, so you never know how the scenario is.
Loss of control.
Exactly. But it's been pretty good. What we'll try to do is we'll try to match them up with their major to make it easier so like the next day they could go to class with the student. That's been the biggest challenge is trying to find similar majors.
Yeah, I remember one time in particular where we had a student come up for an overnight and we didn't do a good job matching up the student with the host, and we put like a wallflower with a party kit, and the next day you could just hear the car peeling out of the parking lot. You know, and it can, as much as it can make the experience, it can break it. I remember a colleague years ago telling me a story. They had an overnight. The family came up, he met the family, everything was cool. The next day the kid came in and he was thinking like what's wrong? Well, the kid was sans an eyebrow. It had been shaved off at some point in the middle of the night. So, you know, I think what Marist has done with trying to really do the best to occupy these students and keep them out of the true college experience is probably the best thing possible.
Because they're pretty much together from 4 o'clock to about 10:30. So I mean, even if you don't have the best match, you still have a number of people to be involved with.
Yeah, I do think that's the best strategy is the group on the given day, the Sunday going into Monday, so that academic component, you got to get that kid up at 8 o'clock and make sure they know they got to go to class.
Exactly, and they're exhausted. They're exhausted. We were worried that they were going to try to stay up, and they were done.
Knocked out.